Funding for Public Square provided by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, working to improve the lives of vulnerable children.
This program is part of American Graduate. Let's make it happen. A public media initiative made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
And viewers like you.
We have a high rate of people in deep poverty. That's living below 50% of the federal poverty rate, or less than $10,000 a year for a family of 3.
It was so important to me knowing that I wanted a home. I needed all the help that I could get.
So at the end of it, I put 1,000 and I walked out with 5,000 total.
One of the things that we know about home ownership is that stabilization and security that they talked about translates to their children.
Well, that's one of the things that I had in mind, that I need to change the patterns.
Because poverty does not mean that you can't do well in school. It does not mean that you have a path that is always destitute and that you cannot achieve.
It's not enough. The kids that need the help the most aren't getting it.
Kids who are living in poverty, kids who aren't eating, kids who are being abused, kids who don't have homes, don't succeed in school, and it's not because of their character.
When we have programs and individuals like ourselves who believe in people and who make these opportunities available, that's when change happens.
Welcome to Public Square, where civic dialogue takes center stage.
When you provide them with the proper tools, they make extraordinary transformations.
New Mexico continues to have one of the worst poverty rates in the nation. It also leads the country in the percentage of children living in poverty. And those numbers have grown in the last few years, according to census data. On this show over the past 5 years, we explored the ripple effects of this reality. They show up in numerous ways, such as in our low rankings for child well-being, our high rates of child abuse and domestic violence, and poor education outcomes. It seems since statehood in 1912, New Mexicans have sought solutions, yet the problem seems intractable. So what will make a difference?
These parents and children need so much more.
On this episode of Public Square, we bring together a diverse group helping people build assets through buying homes, getting educations, and starting businesses. Then we'll bring in Sovereign Hager with the New Mexico Center on Law and Poverty and state representatives Conrad James and Christine Trujillo to talk about larger solutions. Before we start, here's some more information on our topic.
I cook all day, every day. This is my life. I breathe, I live to cook. Some of the challenges that I faced growing up, I was raised in a home that had domestic violence. We were raised in a domestic violence home. Other issues went on as far as abuse in the home as well. I ended up becoming a teenage mother. I had my first child at 14 years old. This is our 4th year, and we've been very blessed. We've picked up clients such as Intel, Sandia National Labs, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, P&M. So we've picked up several large clients, so we're very blessed. I was a child raising children, so I still didn't know where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. I was receiving welfare and I was also receiving food stamps. Was I gonna make a car payment? Was I gonna be part of my rent? Was I gonna keep my lights from being turned off? I got tired of being told how much I could make and how much I couldn't make. And at the same time, no matter which position it was, I always brought the top dollar in for that person. So why not do it for myself and my family? Why not be able to stay home on Christmas with my family? My children kept me going. My children were my motivation. They were the reason why I woke up every day. I knew that I had to make it happen for my children as well as for myself.
What I saw in her was a willingness to listen and to be coached, and she had an openness about her that was fearless.
I taught preschool and I taught kindergarten for 6 years, and I looked for something else. And so then I went back to school and I got my certificate as a medical assistant. And I stayed in that field for 7 years, and I still wasn't happy. I still wasn't happy whatsoever. Ended up in the world of sales after that and did very well. Finally, my other half, he was like, why don't you put everything together that you love? Put the world of sales plus the world of food together and see what you can do. And this is where I am.
There's a lot of steps involved, but we try to uncomplicate things and keep them moving in the right path so that they are building a future for themselves and their families.
If I would not have come here, I would have failed.
Our mission is to be the hub for every business owner and future business owner, that we can be the catalyst to the economy in the South Valley.
And it starts with a little small idea and helping them perfect that, and then watching that grow.
They are really resourceful. They know how to do things. They know how to overcome a lot of things. So entrepreneurship is all about that, overcoming what is possible, impossible, and build from nothing.
I just knew that I loved to cook and I knew that I could cook, but I had no idea how to operate a commercial kitchen. I had no idea, so I learned that when I came here to the mixing bowl. They've held my hand, have guided me through so many things, and they've opened so many doors and have helped me learn of so many different opportunities.
Entrepreneurship is for anyone that is willing to pay the price. They're willing to actually go there and make things happen, and be at the same time humble enough to ask for help, learn from others, learn from your mistakes, and learn to get up again and try it again as much as you need to do it.
I still have quite a bit to learn, but looking at where I am today, I came a long way from yesterday. It's a blessing because there are so many people who have been in the shoes that I was in, and their life turned out differently. And you know, there's no promise for how anyone turns out, you know, but I just thank God that I'm just grateful that I've been blessed to see this.
There is a belief somehow that poverty will always be with us. We need to change that understanding to it's really a social construct. And when we understand it as a social construct, we really can attack the various parts of our systems that lead to poverty and keep people into poverty. So we really need to look at fundamental systemic change in our state.
It's very intimidating to go into a financial institution and to begin asking about, how do I get a loan? How do I just, because it's so intimidating, many people will never even go that route because they don't know what to say. You think, well, that's not for me, I can't do that. That's what I thought. I can't buy a home. How can I possibly buy a home being a single parent of 2 kids?
There are many people who have no credit or have gotten into trouble with their credit, and we can't just allow them to stop and say, all right, you're done. We have to find ways to help rebuild that and help get people to a place where they can get a healthy credit score and rebuild their assets.
It's not one single issue, there's multiple issues, but education, home ownership, and looking at how we solve these issues by looking through the lens of race and how poverty manifests itself.
If we don't really look at what we can do to resolve these issues, we will continue with the cycles of poverty that we have.
We have really kind of internalized a meme that each of us on our own make it in this world, and that is a big lie. We need each other. We need to care about one another, and we need to see our collective future, not our individual future.
I think that every family, every household wants the best for their children and for future generations, and we have to look at that and see what is it we need to do to help people and get rid of the myths and the generalizations that we make about people and groups of people.